tricky, Jacob.
I gotta make sure I don't get too much light in here, because then I look bright as hell.
How we doing, boys?
Good. Busy Sunday for sure.
Yes. Glad we could make this happen real quick, though.
Yeah, me too.
Hell
Great
yeah.
idea. Revisit an album. I like it.
Hell yeah. I like it too. One of us is going to not be represented, though, so just no hard feelings.
Right?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Well, coolio. Okay. Do we want to just like reveal the picks as we like tell them?
Sure.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Cool. Let's have it be a surprise for everybody. All right. Cool. Well, Wayne's World it real quick. Oh shit, dude. Fucking. It looks cool and green over there. Hell yeah. All right. Well, what's up, y'all? This is Whatchu Spinnin. We're here on a Sunday, a little rainy-ish Sunday, chilling out. We're on a little bit of a hiatus, so we're doing a little something special. We're just meeting here to bullshit for a little bit. It's Whatchu Spinnin. I'm Dorian, joined as always with Matt, my bald brethren, of course. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Bald as ever.
And the muscle-bound Miho, Jake. How are you doing, brother?
The crazy hair, brother. I'm
Mhm.
good, man. I'm good.
Hell yeah. Well, let's tell the people what's going on. So we're doing a little bit of a hiatus, but so instead of doing an episode where, we talk about, Lamb of God and Jane's Addiction and, Peter Cat Recording Code, that'll come later when we're able to meet in person. We're going to do a little bit of a remix mashup episode. I'm going to go into the archives where we each picked an album that we want to re-highlight, and so I'm going to go pull that segment from its respective episode, throw it together as if it were a normal episode, and kind of do a hey, go back and visit these albums kind of thing, and maybe those episodes too. But yeah, how are we feeling today, boys? We feeling good?
Yeah. It's a good day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Who wants to go first?
I'll start off.
Go ahead, Matt. Who we got?
This was before my time, I believe, and this was your Alchemist week. And since this is the album that kind of got me back into hip hop, I'm gonna have to go with Haram by Armand Hammer.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, and I never got to talk about it, so now, yeah, there we go.
Hell yeah. That'll be fun. And we can recap. We can, next time we meet, we can kind of do a recap thing where we talk about this. We can do like kind of like a half thing. A little longer episode maybe that time. But okay. Jake.
I like that pick, Matt, because I think that album and that episode was kind of a turning point for me.
Okay.
Because like everyone got so into like detail on notes, and like we did a full episode beforehand that's like unseen footage of like an hour and a half of just that album.
Oh, what? Cool.
So that's a good pull. That's gonna be a good episode just to look at again, reminisce.
Absolutely. That's a hell of an album. I was thinking of doing that one. So that's pretty cool.
Alrighty. So with us wrapping up Albert Einstein, I think it's time for us to dive into Jacob's album. What did you bring for us, Jake?
Yeah.
And before this, Jacob and I both have copies of our albums that we're talking about respectively. And while we did the shoot yesterday, I left my copies of our albums there. So he's going to kind of assist me and kind of lead into probably the first thing we're going to talk about. So what did you have for us, Jacob?
Yeah, so my album this week was Haram by Armand and the Alchemist. Funny enough, there's two versions to this. This is the original cover. Let me take it out because there's a little bit of a glare. But this is the original cover. Very dark, very kind of off-putting. And then this is the Alchemist cover. That's backwards. This is the Alchemist cover. So two very distinct, different covers. Both the same album, both the same track and song list, but two very different covers. And Dorian brought this up, and I remember this happening. But if you want to go ahead, Dorian, and why is it so different? Like, why is one palm trees and beachy vibes, and why is one like super grotesque and like very off-putting?
So I looked this up because I was curious. Because if you notice, if you watch last week's episode, at the end when we announced the albums for this episode, I put the palm trees one, and that's because you cannot find a non-blurry version. Yeah, I put that copy. I put that was the album cover I put over the episode because you cannot find the pighead version on Google Images without it being blurred out. And I was like, I didn't, because as I've kind of shown and talked about in past episodes, like I'm a huge metalhead. I was like, that's nowhere near as bad as some of the shit I've seen that I'm 90% sure that you could find on, Google Images.
Yeah.
And so looking, like trying to put, last week's episode together, I was like, all right, I can't find the pighead version. We got to throw the palm tree one. When this album came out, Alchemist posted on his Twitter about it, and he used the pighead album cover. And PETA dragged his ass through the fucking mud and was like, you should focus on the music. Like, it's not about animal cruelty, but there's songs that kind of allude to why they're pig heads. There's like a lot of stuff about like police brutality and like malpractice, and so to appease them, he put out a second album cover called the Alchemist Edition, which is the one with the palm tree on it, which George actually had a pretty interesting take about why it was a palm tree. And I want you to in that because I love that idea, George.
Okay, and so I'm gonna go into this, and then I'm sure we could just dive into all the songs. But yeah, you're right. Police brutality. That's kind of like what they talk about on the specific song called Chicharrones, which if you don't know what it is, I was about to say if you're white. If you don't know what it is, chicharrones are pig skins, like pork rinds.
Look at me. I know what chicharrones are.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not attacking nobody on this. But so basically, Chicharrones is like a nightmarish song. And I sent you guys the instrumental, and hopefully you guys listen to it, but it sounds just like a nightmare. And that fits the cover of Haram so perfectly, and also because they talk about police brutality on that song. And then the palm tree one, the song is called Falling Out the Sky, is like a dreamy song, and they literally talk about daydreaming while they're working, whatever. And it's like a happy song. It's literally the only happy song out of the whole project. And it's filmed on the beach. Well, the beginning part is on Earl Sweatshirt's verse, which matches the palm trees. And I just thought that was interesting since I'm a very visual person. I noticed that immediately. I was like, wait a minute. This might have been at first, it might have been like an accident because PETA stepped in, but it just worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, but yeah.
No, I think that summed it up perfectly because it's two very, very different album covers. Because that's the first thing you see in music. You see the album cover. You won't listen to the first song just seeing the album cover. But
it's why I got into collecting. That's why I got into collecting records, was because I was so drawn to album covers, because I grew up with a dad who would airbrush all the time, so I was very art heavy, and so seeing badass album artwork, you know, whether it was like Metallica Master of Puppets or, you know, Lateralis by Tool, I was drawn to that, and that's why, because like, how badass would it be to have a 12-inch version of your favorite album cover that also you can throw on something and play it? Like that was like literally 80% of the reason why I collect to this day.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so like, yeah, I could get into it, but it's like so like it's such a thing of the past, owning physicals, like owning CDs, owning vinyl records, and the fact that you could actually physically have it and like look at it and appreciate it, and then, like it comes with its own inserts, and it's got posters and all this stuff. But yeah, it's very different. Two of the album covers are very, very different. And getting into it, Arm& Hammer and Alchemist. Arm& Hammer, it's a collaborative duo artist of Billy Woods and Deloused. Billy Woods, he's kind of like, I guess you could say, the main guy, but they're both very like back and forth, and they're both very talented. Billy Woods, funny enough, I was doing some research on this album because it's very dense and it's very deep. When I listened to this album when it originally came out, it gave me like oceanic vibes, in the sense that it's like very deep, and a lot of it is kind of like waves. Like every song, every track, if you listen to it front to back, it's like waves. Like a wave will crash on the beach, and then it's kind of pulling out, and then the second one just comes in, and then it carries on, and then it just keeps going. Like it's very, if you listen to it front to back, it's like the transitions to track to track is like very clean and crisp. That you can sometimes like be like, oh, this is the second song. Like, oh, we're on track 4 already. Like it's so smooth, the transitions on it. Yeah, Arm& Hammer, two guys, Billy Woods. Funny enough, Billy Woods, I was looking into him, and I've listened to a lot of his individual stuff, and even Arm& Hammer, a collaborative duo. They've been at it since, collectively, both of them together, since 2013, with Race Music. And then they've had Paraffin, they've had Rome in 2017. There's another album, Shrines, that's what it is, Shrines, another Arm & Hammer collective album. Billy Woods has done his own individual stuff, super good. It's like very abstract hip hop, you could say. It's abstract and it's very different. A lot of the lyrics will go over your head easily, just because it's very, very dense, and you have to like look into it. And like that's how you appreciate the music, because lyrically, from a lyrical standpoint, Billy Woods and Arm & Hammer, they're so ahead of like the curve that like the lyrics that they have are fucking insane. But funny enough, I was looking into Billy Woods. He's born in DC to an English literature professor for a mother. So his mom is an English literature professor, and his dad a PhD Marxist writer and thinker. So just from that, you could kind of see how that translates to his music as a rapper, because his lyrics to his songs are crazy and very deep.
Yeah, for real. Can I bring up some lyrics real quick?
Oh yeah, go for it.
My favorite lyrics on this album, or my two favorite songs on this album, are Indian Summer into Aubergine. And I know Jacob will explain a little bit more about Aubergine, but Indian Summer, he says, I used to cut grass and smile like I meant it. We squatted in the shade when the mower's overheated. Come home stinking of gas in the evening. It wasn't any one thing, it was the sequence. The intoxication of counting cash in secret. The secret hiding places where you keep it intimate. Like, just talking about how he was cutting lawns, but either him or his family member were selling crack and or whatever, and had cash counting in the back. Like, just stuff like that with Billy Woods. It'll be over these beautiful beats. Like Indian Summer has like a very, it's like when you hear it come on, you're like, oh, this is really nice. And then you hear lyrics like that and it's like, oh shit. Like
Fucking insane, dude. It's crazy. I love how the beats on this album, talking about Alchemist like catered these beats specifically to Armand Hammer. Because these beats, I don't think would go with any other rappers. Like if you want to put this to Boldy James, if you want to put this to Freddie Gibbs, you can't, because it doesn't not match. But it matches like so perfectly to Armand Hammer and Billy Woods. And getting into it, like the track list, the first song, Sir Benny Miles, it is like a crazy start to the album. As like a sample, that it's like getting into it. And Billy Woods, like his first verses that he's saying on this album, he's like, dreams is dangerous, linger like angel dust, ain't no angels hovering, ain't no saving us, ain't no slaving us. You gonna need a bigger boat, you gonna need a smaller ocean, but here's some more rope. Like it's so insane. And then even like from a producer standpoint, Alchemist does a lot of like reverse production, and this is the first track that we could see that. And reverse production, like reversing music, like reversing samples, it's been done in the past. Some producers have done it, like Timbaland, he's done it, and Alchemist, like, he produced, yeah. And I feel like Alchemist kind of like perfects it in this song. And yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear it like it's insane how it works. And then Deloused, his opening verse also, he's like, what did he say? He's like, you need permission to have an issue with me. Like, like Billy Woods, like I feel like lyrically he's so good, but Deloused's like delivery is what sets him apart.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to mention this because I said it yesterday, and it's like, you know, when you have a problem with someone and you're telling them what is what, or telling her what is what, and they're just they're not listening to it. It's like, hold up, before you have an issue, you have to fucking have permission for me to even have a fucking issue in the first place. Like, listen to what I'm saying. So I love that so much. And I also want to bring up the lyrics to Chicharrones because, again, police brutality, and that's the whole reason why Cut Off Pig's Head is on the front. I'm not saying animal cruelty is okay, but also police brutality isn't okay. One thing to talk about animals, but it's another thing to talk about human beings. And so the lyrics to right off the beginning is like, this shit is like Reiki to me, man. Billy Woods says, got caught with the pork, but you gotta kill the cop in your thoughts. Still saying pause. Motherfuckers say they hate the cops, but the minute something off, they want to use force. I just work here. I'm not the boss. And he says, when they look back at history, make sure I'm absolved. Make sure. Don't try to rewrite the past. It's oral history when I'm involved. Wow. It's just crazy. He's like, get caught with the hog leg, but you got to kill the cop in your head, the officer in your mind, red-handed, the chicharrones with chile and lime, which is dope because me and Jacob talked about how Latino lingo is used in rap, which I think is so dope. Like Sunday school on the plugs I'm in, the 38 Special says, what do you say? I'm a young sucker, got Mexican idols, just left Ohio. We head up for Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
And just hearing stuff like that is just so dope. And to hear this on this track, I was just like, thank you, shout out. So it was definitely like super cool to hear that.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a dense album that the lyrics are, from like a first like listener, like if you're listening to this, it's very different to like mainstream album, and that's why I kind of refer to it as like abstract hip hop.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I brought up Indian Summer and I brought up Aubergine earlier, and this just goes to show another just great example of Billy Woods' lyricism is on Aubergine. Literally, the song right after Indian Summer. It's I send brothers to the store. I keep something in the cupboard. I'm stubborn. I am my mother's love measured in eyedroppers, burnt rubber from the coppas. The eye doctor leapt, shocked. My third eye. Don't believe me? Just watch my chakras. Shots pop in hills of Caracas. It's like, Jesus Christ! Like, like that whole run.
Yeah.
That whole run is like, holy shit! Like,
and it's something that like I talked about with the Primus record, where it's like you talked about like lyrics of rock, and I said, to me they're very cryptic. Like it's hard for me to decipher like what they're saying. And with good hip hop like lyricism, you want that. You want them to dig deeper. Like you said, Jacob, it goes over your head sometimes. And with this album, like they're very, very cryptic. And it's up to your interpretation. And that's why I absolutely love that you said they sound abstract, because it truly is. So I was very happy that you said that. And then I want you to talk about, Jacob, what you said with the lyrics that you had to look up, because even I didn't get it. But I'm glad that you explained it, because there's so much to it. Just that one line.
Yeah, no, I really did do my research on this album, because I've heard it like a bunch, like almost I at this point I could say it like 50 times, 100 times. But like, yeah, getting into it, like Roaches Don't Fly, fantastic song. Lyrics on there, like there's lyrics on this whole album that I could bring up. But Roaches Don't Fly, the second track, it's like this is elusive that he's saying, guns go off, smoke and fire, light and sound. My new name colonizers can't pronounce. Bounce for ounce. What more? Kill your landlord. Like he's talking about here, like how if we talk about it like in American history, like settlers that they were coming to colonizers that were coming to America, they couldn't pronounce like African Americans' names. That's why he says new names colonizers can't pronounce. It's insane. And then where he says like, what more? Kill your landlord. Kill your landlord is like historically it's always been like a phrase that you say that it's exploitation of black people.
But like you mentioned that when I brought this up yesterday, you kind of agreed. Both of you guys kind of agreed with it, actually. When he says "kill your landlord," he gets like kind of like a metal-esque kind of like growl to him. He's like "kill your landlord," and then it does the "Lord, Lord, Lord" like echo with the fucking deep voice. And I think that's like the coolest part of that whole line is that he really just sells it with his voice, and it's impressive because
it starts sounding something else too. Like we were talking about, you know, when you're a kid and you're being an annoying little shit, and you just start like saying one word over and over again, and then you start to realize like, oh, this sounds like a different word now after saying it so many times. And I forget the name. I forget what it's called when that happens, but also the Beat Conductor, shout out. He has a song called, I think it's something N-word, but he says the N-word multiple times, and then it turns into, he says it so many times it starts forming into it starts sounding like a gun, a gun, a gun, a gun, and then it starts sounding like again, again, again. So it's like that this, and then the other thing, it all makes sense. But it's funny that it all just morphed into something else, but it's all meaningful. And I think that's what, they do on this, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Very, very artistic and very creative for them to pull that off.
They do that on Aubergine, which that track
Aubergine,
also, we talked about it yesterday. Aubergine is like an Italian phrase for eggplant, and eggplant is sometimes referred to as like slang for like African American. So it's like what the fuck, like how do you come up with that? But that song, funny enough, the intro to it, it's talking about like hysteria. It has a sample. It's like I forget the lyrics, but it's like researchers found like the symptoms of hysteria, and it's like it builds up to it, and then the track goes into it, and on that song, that's where George, how you were saying, he says like I'm in the now, I'm in the now, I'm in the now, like back to back. But listening to it, it sounds like he's saying I'm in denial, I'm in denial, I'm in like. It's insane that like there's like a double meaning to it. Like it's like a double-edged sword, It's fucking insane. But what else? Black Sunlight, the Kayana feature on that song, super good. I love how she kind of just blends into the beat. Like you hear her voice in the beat and you think it's part of the sample, but that's just her as a feature.
But also shows talents for mastering, because I assume the things that he produces, he's like, hey, I want it to sound a certain way, especially if it's a collaborative album. He wants to hand on the mastering. So I assume in the booth, he was like, hey, make this sound more like the beat, make the Kayana feature sound more like the beat than like so loud, like do something to it, like put a layer over it or a filter, but I agree, it fits so fucking well.
Yeah. And the voice starts sounding like an instrument at that point, and that's what Kanye constantly has done throughout his whole work.
Yeah.
And then also I wanted to mention, because I brought it up last time and I just thought it was funny, because this happened recently, and this album is recent, how eggplant was used as a slang term for Black people, and I didn't know that there was a thing with Italians and racism. It was crazy. I'm a huge bike fan. I love this brand called Chinelli. It's a super cool, with rich race history, Italian-made bikes, and they recently just gotten a lot of trouble because this was just after the whole protests that just blew up during the pandemic, and they had like a watermelon face with red lips, and they had so there's like time trial helmets that racers or like people who race professionally use, but their head was down and it's like a cone, and the artist did the drawing of it, but it was only the outline. So it literally looks like KKK members on a jersey. And so they got absolutely just wrecked for that. But I just, it was just, it's shady, but it's also kind of funny. It's like, did you guys not like see what you were doing? About it? Yeah. It's like, who was the guy that was like, that looks good, send it. Yeah. It's like, but it's funny to know that happened, and then also they talk about, I guess, Italians being racist, which is shitty also, because I want to mention that I do want to change my name eventually to the called Giulio, which is it's like an Italian version that's spelled Giulio, but now I'm kind of like, I'm like, should I? But yeah, it's just, I also want to hear the verses that you're talking about that talk about praxis, a word that I didn't even know existed.
You got enough air in your lungs.
I almost forgot about it, but you ain't gotta be here if you don't wanna.
You ain't gotta be here.
You ain't gotta. That's a song, dude. That's Roaches Don't Fly, dude. I fucking love
Roaches Don't Fly and God's Feet.
Dude.
God's Feet is such a good fucking song off this album. Just that when that old blast. I don't know why. I am obsessed with that. I love that elusive fucking little bullshit singing thing he does.
Yeah, like they try singing, but it's kind of mediocre, but it works. Like they're trying, like they're attempting it, and then it cuts into rapping. And it's like almost.
You got enough air in your lungs. It's like, I don't know why, but that line is like, that you got enough air in your lungs is so hard. It's like, I don't.
His delivery, man, Elucid's delivery is fucking insane. I love his delivery. Like Billy Woods is lyrically, like his lyricism.
Yes.
But Billy Woods, Elucid's like his delivery, how he just punches into like the track.
Yeah, right off of that, when that old blast.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally singing, and then he does that, and it's like, oh, bruh, it's like you didn't have to do that to a motherfucker.
Insane, man.
Literally drop that bomb on you guys. But I'm for real thinking about changing my name to Julio. Being that it's like a G. But yeah, I think I might change my name to Julio.
Gendry.
Gendry. Shout out Gendry. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Shout out Gendry.
Gendry. But getting back into it, that's one of my more favorite, like, when I was researching this, like that was one of my more favorite lyrics on the track, or on this album. Because I was listening to it, the Black Sunlight song with Kayana. Looking back at the lyrics, it's so deep and so dense, and this is why I like refer to it as like an ocean, because it's very deep. Like it goes over your head very, very easily. But getting right back into it, there's a lyric on there. Let me just look it up real quick. Where it is Black Sunlight. There's a lyric on there that that I believe Billy Woods, he says that it made me look into this song, like this this word, because I hadn't heard of this word. Like I've heard the word, but I hadn't actually like looked into what it meant. Right here, it's like cook the books with bookworms, a word, and then he says, iridescent blackness. Is it performative or praxis? Are we talking about practice? We talk about practice, like it's like a double.
We talk about practice. I love, dude, that lot that we talk about practice. That shit is so clean.
Yeah, like it references like Allen Iverson, like the interview where he like for 5 minutes, it's like he missed a practice, and he's like, "We talking about practice? Like you're making a big deal about practice?" But it's like he says, like, is it performative or praxis? And I was like, what does the word praxis mean? I'm like I've heard of that word, but what is it actually meaning? And of it, like looking into it, praxis is related to practice. Praxis is doing the action of the thing you're talking about. So Billy Woods saying, is it performative or praxis? He's like saying, like, are we actually talking about us doing it? Or are we actually like acting and like doing what we're saying that we're gonna do? And it's like a double entendre. He's saying, like, are we actually gonna put into action and like try being better? Or are we just saying, hey, we'll try, you know? Like
it's like more it's a more like clever way, very clever. And this is where you could tell his parents' background really, like, you know, put an effect on him. But it's a clever way of saying, in poetry, even cooler, of saying actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
it's a way clever way of saying that, basically, which I thought was amazing. When you brought that up, I was like, oh shit, because like I didn't even look it up. I was just like, what the fuck does that mean? And I just kind of was left there wondering, and I just never looked it up. But dude, that's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, no, I think it's that's what I appreciated so much about that lyric specifically. Like he said that lyric for a reason. Maybe I'm just looking into it too much, or I'm just like reading in between the lines too much. But I'm not. I feel like he did this on
Between the lions.
Yeah. God damn
it. And reading between the lines. Yo.
Between the lions, dude.
All right, Jake.
Reel it back.
All right, Jake. What are your top 3 off the album? What are your 3 favorite songs off the album, my
guy? Real quick, before I do, I think the best song, and I think collectively we could all agree, the best song on this album, Falling Out the Sky.
Yes.
With Earl Sweatshirt. I mentioned this yesterday's podcast. When I was listening to this, I was like, how do I feel about this song? And when I hear this song, if there's one song to listen to on this album, listen to that one, because it's probably the best one. But the production on it and the just the whole track, it feels like, when you're like making your bed and you're putting your sheets on your bed and you like throw your sheets up in the air and you let your sheets fall, and it's like slowing down and kind of like breathing down to like the actual mattress. That's how the track feels. Like it feels like it's like floating, and it's like just like soothing, and like because the beat is so smooth, and like when Earl
Sweatshirt jumps in on it, like it gives you that very slight taste of what the beat is, and it's that very synth heavy, and then Earl Sweatshirt comes in very quickly, but it's such a smooth. Before she dropped a load on me, before she dropped and it's just.
So I wanted to mention also back to the Al shit, like him being able to cater to an artist is so incredible that he could do it together for other people on one track. And this is a perfect example, because you listen to this song and you're like, this is an Earl beat. Like this is for him. And yeah, dude, it's just so dope to hear that.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite track, Falling Out the Sky with Earl Sweatshirt. But if I had to pick my top 3, it'd be Falling Out of the Sky, Sir Benny Miles, because it's just such a crazy, not only beat, but like an introduction to an album. And then Give Me Scaffolds. I love Scaffolds. We didn't get into it. We didn't get into it, but it's so unique. It's such a good song. But this whole album, it's very abstract. If you're a hip hop head and you like very underground hip hop and you appreciate Billy Woods, I think you would appreciate this album. And you've probably heard of it if you are a hip hop head. But yeah, give me those 3 albums. Give me Falling Out of the Sky, Sir Benny Miles, and Scaffolds.
Hell yeah. George, you want to give yours, or you want me to give mine?
I just want to say also, because I forgot to mention this, because I mentioned it yesterday, but wow, that thought came into my head. Oh, so I was going to say Billy Woods, so Armand Hammer, like their earlier projects, like their beats are kind of catered to the rhyming style, and the rhyming style is very like just tempo driven, and so the track kind of just gives like an atmosphere for them to be the main dish. I said it was kind of like a bowl. Weird analogy, but the beat is a bowl and the main course is Armand Hammer. And so their earlier stuff, their beats were very good and catered to them, but Al just emulated that same type of thing, but made it so much better. And again, the talent that Al has is absolutely insane. But with that, with that out there on the table, favorite song, Chicharrones. I love horror movies. I love dark, gritty stuff, and Chicharrones was just that. The song that I think about any nightmare that I've ever had, the instrumental will go perfectly with any nightmare that I've had. Chicharrones is my number one. Second has to be Black Sunlight.
Nice.
And then the third, Falling Out the Sky. Real quick mention, call back to Albert Einstein. Roaches Don't Fly, Black Sunlight sound a lot like Breeze because it's a very like 80s like synth type beat that could like, you could see that being on like the Scarface movie. But yeah, those are my 3 picks.
Hell yeah. And my 3 favorite would be, I kind of mentioned earlier that I view Indian Summer and Aubergine as one track. So number 1 is Indian Summer, 2 Aubergine, and then 3 Falling Out the Sky. Just because the lyricism in Indian Summer right into Aubergine is fucking unreal. Just like it, every time I hear it, I get goosebumps, and and then Falling Out the Sky. Obviously, the beat into that Earl Sweatshirt verse, unmatched. But with that, that was Haram by Armand with Alchemist Production. We will be right back with the next album.
And yeah, we all decided to go with others' albums, not our own. So with that, I'll go next. And since this guy just told us what he's picking, I'm going with episode 46, Matt's pick, Deloused in the Comatorium by the Mars Volta. Re-listened to that this week while I was kind of formulating how this was going to go down, and went back, listened to it this morning, and I was like, nah, yeah, this kicks ass. So episode 46, Deloused in the Comatorium, I'll be pulling that.
Oh yeah, it's a good one too.
We just wrapped up talking about Smoke Break by Fly Sifu. Let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. Another, new artist to me that I had seen the name a bunch but never actually listened to the music, which is Matt's pick for this week. So I'll let him intro that. What you got, man?
I'm going with a pick from 2003 from a band called the Mars Volta. Deloused in the Comatorium. Album cover is very unique, done by the same artist that worked for Pink Floyd throughout the years doing their album covers, Storm Thorgerson. Very creative artist, and as you can tell by that one, he's still got it decades later. This is very much a concept album, probably one of the first concept albums I heard, minus The Wall and a few other ones before that. Has to do with somebody that's in a coma after taking too much rat poison and some other drug. I know it's kind of a weird idea for a concept album.
Yeah.
The music for me was very different when I bought it, because I actually bought it in 2003 when it came out. I just moved to California from Oregon to kind of start over, and that was the first album I bought when I got down there. It was music that I had never listened to before. I was into the alternative stuff and things like that, but this really opened my eyes to a lot of different artists. Basically, the songs are so long, like 12-minute songs. It's like a Tool record. This just has a lot of different meanings for me. I think it just opened my eyes to what's out there, like I said a minute ago. And it's just got a cool sound, The vocals are high-pitched, the guitars are in your face, the drumming's amazing. They've got a great drummer. And then Flea's playing bass on the album, Can't ask for more than that. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, dude, it was badass. I hadn't heard of this. I've seen the album cover like so many times. Like sometimes like online I'll look at people's like, setups that they have for their records and stuff. And I see people have this album and I've seen it so many times, like the golden head just on the like platter, like, and there's like stuff all around it. Album cover is super cool, super trippy. It like I was looking at it and it's like one of those like a medical table, like a surgery lab table, and there's like stuff
Yeah,
in the
there's like, yep,
background, and then there's like a kid in like the doorway, like kind of like
there's a
surprised or
stethoscope and
whatever.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's super cool. But yeah, the actual album, like, holy shit, dude! Like it's so much, like different variations of like rock music and like rock styles, and this one was badass. Like the kickstart to the album, like the first song going perfectly into the second song, where they should have just made it just one song, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it's a killer start to an album. Um, and yeah, everything to it, all the guitar licks on it, the long songs. I think there's one that's like 12 minutes long. Yeah, all around super badass. Hadn't heard of these guys, but now that I have, definitely something that I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad that you brought this up. At the same time, I like that it's the production on it super good. Also, Rick Rubin produced on it, which I feel like he's behind so many great albums for a good reason, because I don't know what he does. Like he just makes it sound so much more complete, so much more finished.
He is like the epitome of professional record producer, Rick Rubin. I also don't know what it is, but everything he puts his hands on sounds fucking fantastic.
And he's never genre specific. He's everywhere. Hip hop, metal, rock. Like it doesn't matter. Like, he's so good at what he does.
And to touch on Rick real quick, Jacob. Actually, I'll let you wrap up your point, Jacob.
No, that was my point. So Rick Rubin's a fucking badass.
Okay. No, he is. I saw a clip on like fucking Facebook or something, or YouTube maybe, I can't remember. Anyway, it was Rick Rubin in an interview, and someone asked him like, how did you end up getting involved in so many different genres and working with so many different artists? And it came across as pretentious a little bit, but it made sense. He was like, I just know what sounds good. And he's like, someone can come to me with like a demo and it doesn't sound good. He's like, I'll make it sound good. He's like, I'll take something that sounds lackluster and I will do the work to make it sound good on the mastering end and the production end and everything. And you can really tell with just about everything Rick Rubin does. He's been behind some of the biggest albums of all time, and I feel like I said at the end of last episode when you introduced this album, Matt, I was like, I've heard the name Mars Volta so many goddamn times, couldn't name a single song from him, and I kept just, this album, man, was just, it was so, like, there's not a lot of songs on it. You did kind of mention like, oh, it's got like Tool length songs on it, which is great. There's a lot of shit going on musically, whether it's Flea's bass playing, the drumming, the vocals, which are a whole thing that I could dive into. But there's so much going on that it's like, yeah, Rick Rubin had to come in and kind of contain all of this because it's so unique, like this album to me was a hodgepodge of so many different artists I've ever heard, and but it was killer, you know what I mean? Like it just kicked ass. And so personally, I'm really glad that you brought it up, because I would have died not knowing what a single Mars Volta song sounded like. I would have been like, I've heard the name 1,000 times, couldn't tell you anything about him, kind of thing. And then also, as Jacob said, the original album cover and the alternate cover both are fucking killer.
And I think the vocals really stand out with Cedric singing, the lead singer. I mean, he's got such a high-pitched voice, but his delivery is spot on. And I don't know if he wrote a lot of the lyrics himself. Either way, great lyricism throughout the whole album. I mean, lines that I'll remember forever. Just, the first track alone. Even John Frusciante is on this album as well, which I thought was really random. So we got a couple Chili Peppers in the house on this one.
Wait, John was on it too?
Mm-hmm.
No shit.
He's got a guitar part on one of the songs. Yeah, I was like, "What? Frusciante's on here?" So,
Matt. So you and I both read the book. Both read Scar Tissue by Kiedis. I don't think there was like hardly any mention of Mars Volta.
Not at all.
Like,
not at all. Yeah, Frusciante does additional guitar and synthesizer on Cicatriz ESP. Apparently, the song.
I really liked that song.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs too.
That's fucking funny.
And like I said, when I started talking about the album, this is one of the first concept albums that I remember hearing besides The Wall and other things like that. So in a sense, it could be just one long song, that whole album, it doesn't feel like it changes a whole lot, and in that sense, it makes it a concept album. I really like the guitar work all around, a great guitar player. And I think they just feed off each other. The guitar and the vocals just go back and forth. It's got like a jazzy Latin kind of beat to it sometimes throughout the songs. But definitely eclectic and definitely out there.
It's also like multi-layered. Like there's like so many like sections to the song that it goes into. Like every song is just hits you back to back on different things. Like the first 3 songs like are probably my most favorite part of the album. Just because that intro to the album, going right into the second song, and then the third song, Roulette Dares. That's probably my favorite song, just because the hook, I feel like it's so like memorable, and just screaming exoskeletal or whatever he's saying. Yeah, man, and something about like these nutty like song titles too. It kind of makes it like exotic. I don't know.
They're very exotic.
Sonnet Lumiere and Inertiatic Esp. Like, I don't know how to pronounce these, but yeah, it's fucking badass, man.
And one thing that I kind of noticed and really fell in love with about this album was there would be, maybe especially on the longer tracks, there would be, maybe 2.5, 3 minutes of, establishing like, hey, this is the song. And then they would go on these really long bridges. They would just have these borderline like Grateful Dead-esque fucking little jams in the middle of these songs. And then it'd be like, oh, remember that chorus from 3.5 minutes ago? Here it is again. Right. And that theme from 2 minutes ago? Here it is again. And there were like 2 or 3 songs like that on this. And it was like, it kind of took you on a journey, It would be like, wait, I actually really liked that hook or that chorus, and then like after a badass bridge of Flea doing his thing and everybody just going nuts, it'd be like right back, just boom, right back into it, locked into the groove. And I was like, man, that's a true testament to the craft, being able to do those wild interludes and then go right back into what you established at that point 5 fucking minutes ago in a song. Incredible. I love that.
I've been looking at like their other stuff too. I was listening to a little bit of Francis the Mute. Also fucking badass album. In the album cover, like all these guys' album covers, Mars Volta. I was even looking online at some of their other stuff, and like they've gotten a lot of praise, mainly this album and their second album, like being as their better albums. But for this being a debut, like this is the first thing coming out, like it's fucking nuts, man. It's always so amazing, and it like just captures like just the feeling of a new artist, a new album. Like when they just right out the gate, they're just like full-fledged, full throttle.
And as we've shown on this podcast, we do love a good debut album.
It's pretty brave to come out, you know, and throw a 12-minute song on a debut, you know, and nobody's heard your music before. So I feel like these guys just went out there, and it was a perfect time in 2003 to come out and just throw the sound out there. You know, there was nothing standing in their way, and they definitely made an impact. I know this album itself was a journey for them. You know, the bass player OD'd on heroin before the album, like a month before the album came out, which is why, you know, Flea was on there and doing his thing. So there's a lot of tragedy behind what happened in the album, but when you look at it as a whole, I mean, it's a great piece of work, artistically, visually, musically, and lyrically. I mean, again, I can't say enough about the lyricism. Just some of the lyrics that I hear on this album, I'll just always repeat in my head forever. It's great.
So, not to exclude you, Jacob, but this was a conversation I had with Matt like fucking a year ago. You remember when I told you to look into Richelieu?
Mm-hmm.
Does what's the singer for Mars Volta? I don't know his name, but does he not sound? He sounds like the singer for Richelieu.
He does.
Like, I think I finally found the one artist, because when I introduced you to that band, I was like, it sounds like Rush, Maynard, a little bit of Roger Waters.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard this and I was like, no, it's the fucking guy from Mars Volta. That's just who it sounds like.
Yeah.
You know? So that was like a trip for me because I was super into Richelieu when I was in high school. Richelieu, great prog metal band. If y'all don't know, I'll probably end up bringing them up at some point on this. But no, that was like the main comparison I kept. And also, like I said earlier, this was my introduction to them. So every time you're introduced to music, you're going to make comparisons.
Oh yeah.
And it's just fucking human nature. And so I was like, no, this is Richelieu, dude. Like, this sounds just like him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I finally found one vocalist that sounds just like him, you know? So I don't have to do this like hodgepodge explanation. I can just be like, you know, Mars Volta, it's that, basically. So no, I loved the vocals as well as the instrumentation, as I kind of touched on earlier. But overall, thank you for bringing this up, because I, again, would have just been on my deathbed being like, Mars Volta, I saw that they were on a lineup for a festival I never went to. Like, it would have been that.
Right.
I think.
Well, good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. You know, it's not for everybody. I know some people don't like Cedric's vocals; it's a little too high pitched. But I think for all the music that we all listen to together as a group or by ourselves, we like those high vocals. We like the experimentation side of that when you're using your voice in different ways, no matter if it's low or high. So.
Exactly. Shall we top three it up, or do we have any closing arguments?
Closing arguments. No, I think there's so many guest appearances on there. You know, like Jake said earlier, Rick Rubin produced. You know, it's all around. It's just like, how can you go wrong on this album with all that?
This is a Whatchu Spinnin album for sure.
Definitely.
Like based off the people, like the albums we've covered and the people that were on them, whether it's, you know, Flea straight off of us talking about Red Hot Chili Peppers, or Rick Rubin with the other shit that he's done that we've talked about. I feel like we've really appreciated a lot of the people on this album, and we'll continue to do so. You know, every time we bring Rick Rubin up, I'll get a hard on. You know, I love the motherfucker. I dead ass. So when I was like a freshman, sophomore in high school, I was going to go to Montana State University and get a degree in music engineering because I loved David Geffen and Rick Rubin. I thought they were the coolest motherfuckers on the planet. And then I realized I really liked football. And so I went to LCC for one semester with a journalism major, and I realized school sucks. Probably could have used, you know, the 12 years of me being in school to make that decision. But yeah, I used to basically want to be Rick Rubin. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive into top threes. Matt, why don't you kick us off, baby boy?
We kind of got that Rick Rubin look from maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, once my full beard starts turning gray, I will be Rick Rubin. Like, it's not going to turn gray. I'm going to turn white.
Scraggly gray beard. Just paint it over, dude, or get the everything.
Dude, the Sid Haig just be fucking Captain Spaulding.
Show up randomly to famous people's houses, like for no reason.
Be like, it's me, Rick. Yeah, what's going on? All right, top threes. Honorable mention, and then 3, 2, 1. Honorable mention would be, I think it's the last track, I Take the Veil, Serpent Text, which is, Serpent Text is basically the person that the album's about, in a sense. And then 3, 2, 1, Drunken Ship of Lanterns for 3. Number 2 would be Cicatrez ESP. And then my favorite track is, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Aratarka? Yeah, we'll go with that. Aratarka.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Fun.
Just based off your top 3, I'll go next. Honorable mention for me, Intertiatic ESP is my honorable mention. Number 3 for me was Take the Veil, Serpent Taxed. I felt like that was a really strong way to close out the album. Number 2, Drunk Ship of Lanterns, as you had mentioned. And then I agree with you, Matt. My favorite song off of this was Aratarka. Just couldn't get enough of that one. That one really had that bridge, bang, bang, and then a bridge. So really like that one. Again, thanks for bringing this up. I will probably try finding this just to have another prog pick.
They just re-released it this year on vinyl, this album specifically. So
no shit. Okay, so probably hella cheap.
Yeah.
So my lookout for sure. Then in that case, if it's reissue, hell yeah. Honorable mention. I'm gonna go Interdiatic Asp, the second song.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3. Take the Veil. Roulette Dares. I changed my mind. It's still probably my favorite song, Roulette Dares, but my favorite song for sure, Cicatrez ESP. That 12-minute song, that like break that they have, the multi-layered sections to the song. It's great. So yeah, this whole album, man, sick. I'm gonna definitely listen. I'm gonna finish listening to their second album because I hear that one is like debatable their best work also. So I'm gonna look into that for sure. But yeah, thanks for introducing me to this album and this artist because yeah, these guys definitely doing it right.
Hell yeah. Glad you guys enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And that was Matt's pick for this week. Deloused in the Comatorium by the Mars Volta, released in 2003. We're going to go ahead, put a big fat bow on this thing, send it to the moon, and
Oh yeah, it's a good one too.
Yeah.
I went back in time also to episode 19, I want to say, where it was still pretty early on and we still had 4 members in the podcast. For the new listeners, maybe for the old ones, we used to have 4. But it's where the episode where we talked about Stan Getz and Joao Gilberto. Great album. I've been listening to it a whole lot. That episode actually prompted me to buy the record. So, yeah, it's a great listen. If you get a chance to, give it a listen.
Rock on. Rock on. Okay. Do we want to... Shit. Okay. I can use that. All right. So we just wrapped up talking about Matt's pick for this week. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. We're doing George's now. What do you got for us, friend?
Stan/Gilberto. Stan Getz and Joao Gilberto. It's a bossa nova jazz type album. Super awesome. Stan Getz from Philly. This album came out in '64. An amazing saxophone player. Yeah. I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah.
After listening to it. Yeah, what did you guys think? I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. You can tell it's Stan Getz. Tell you that much.
Yeah.
He is destroying that sax the whole time. Just
I guess you could say Stan Getz.
Stan Getz. He gets that
Stan
sax.
gets it, man.
He gets it. And it's because, like I had said, I had heard some of his other stuff, but I had never heard this. And, you know, that bossa nova influence with his saxophone on it.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting combination of the two to where it's, you kind of get lost in thought thinking about it, and it just makes you kind of go like, you kind of just like zone off, and you're like, what the? You're like, this is so weird. It's like, but why does it work so well? It's like, and it's just got, it's like so easy to listen to. It's like, you know, easy listening is like a genre or whatever. I don't mean it like that, but it's just like you listen to it and you're like, man. But if you like really think about it, you're like, this is really fucking good and very interesting as a concept. I love it.
It's a really good sample of world music colliding.
Yeah.
Like Brazilian shit
Yeah.
with an American saxophone player.
Yeah.
Like that's wow.
Yeah.
I think it's considered to be like the bossa nova album.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is like
Yeah.
what made it popular, that genre back
Yeah.
in '64. You know, it's accessible. You know, it's something you can play in the background when you're eating dinner.
Yeah.
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 It was
at
massive,
a
dude.
party. You know, you can put it in the background and throw it on.
Especially like it was so influential, especially to jazz, because that early you have like a Portuguese singer like with an American sax player, and when they collided, dude, they went like insane. Like
Yeah.
everybody loved them. Like I think it won a couple like awards.
It
and
did.
shit.
It did.
And especially that song.
Damn, I didn't even
he
know that.
The
had.
jazz, best
Yeah,
jazz,
dude, it
best
won a
jazz
couple.
instrumental album.
Best jazz, yeah, and then I think best album,
Like three other ones, too,
like
yeah.
'93 or something.
Holy shit, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
It's because, dude, the song with Astrid Gilberto,
Yeah.
her on the girl from
Yeah, the
Panama.
title track. Yeah, the first song. Yeah.
That song is like iconic. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
song you know. Like you
Yeah.
played that song,
Everybody
right?
knows
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Like,
want to hold my hand?
yeah. I pulled up the track list and saw that, and I was like, oh, that's where this came from? I was like, oh, fuck, I know that song. Like, that's exactly, like, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really so this album, it evokes a lot of emotion for me, just because it's like really, it's really, it's almost like the way he plays the saxophone is really like it caresses me. I feel like
It's sensual, in a sense.
and it's like really loving and sweet and innocent and pure. I feel like,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to like listen to it.
Yeah, it's intense at times and slower in
Yeah,
other parts of the album.
and what I noticed is that the vocalist, so there's like very low like
Mm-hmm.
drumming.
Yeah.
The piano comes in randomly, but the vocalist and the saxophone are just, they're on par of how loud they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I noticed. But yeah, it's a really heartfelt, like touching album.
Yeah.
You ever be so happy that sometimes you cry?
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, especially with music. Yeah.
This is like a perfect example of like, I listen to this and I can't not cry every time I listen to it.
Yeah.
I like the
It's
album
just
cover
so-
too.
It's
Yeah.
so loving. It feel like I listen to this album and it feels like I'm getting a hug.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very warm. It's very like homey.
Yeah.
Like you could play it and you could. I feel like that for me. Like how I feel about jazz. Like I could just put it on like late at night if I'm just like trying to relax and like
Yeah.
just listen to music. Like just something good that I can like listen to, and it feels just like that.
Yeah.
Especially with jazz.
Yeah, I agree.
And jazz is pretty crazy because like,
It's diverse as fuck.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a deep genre.
Oh yeah, it's so from everywhere. And the
you look
fact,
at New Orleans jazz
Mhm.
and New York jazz,
yeah,
way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at when this came out in '64. There was so many things coming out at that
Yes.
point. Like there's so many people doing that.
There was
you know,
so many
many
crazy
different things
collabs,
going on.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Everybody's doing
insane.
something.
The
Yeah.
first one that I had heard actually from Stan Getz was that when he collabed with Bob Brookmeyer. There's a song on there that it's like one of his more iconic songs.
You gotta send that to me.
But this song, dude, like a lot of the songs on this album, and you could tell like Stan Getz, he's so good at just like doing improv like sax.
Yeah.
Especially, I heard that a lot on the, I think, third track, Para Machuchad. No, it's like some weird name. It's like Portuguese name.
Something Mi Corazón.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that song, you could hear him just like, because that's what a lot of jazz is, like, especially when they were doing live shows, like, it was just like improv sax, and they were just like going with the flow, and you could hear that in that, like,
Yeah.
he's an insane, like, super talented.
So because I'd never like researched anything about Stan Getz, because my dad would just like play this on like car rides, because my dad he used to like preach.
Is that where you first heard this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So my dad
Very
would
cool.
play this, and I'd be in the back seat, and every time he would play this, like I would not complain. I'd be so taken away by it, and it was just incredible to hear this. So what's funny is that he is known as the sound.
The sound, yeah.
Because of his warm, like
Yeah.
his warm tone, and that's precisely why maybe like I want to cry every time I listen.
Yeah. It makes sense.
It caught on to you at an early age. Yeah, it stuck with you. That's cool.
Yeah, and being like young and listening to that, like every time I listen to this, I'm like,
Anytime music
damn,
can
man.
invoke an emotion in you,
Yeah,
it's powerful.
it's
Whether,
deep, yeah.
whether it's a vocal or an instrument.
It's the soul.
Yeah.
yeah, dude, it hits a little too hard.
That's good though. I get that way. I'll get sentimental and start, tearing up when I hear certain vocalists. It happens. Or certain songs,
And that's I think the beauty of music is
Yep.
because there's songs by bands that I don't even listen to their entire discography, but there's like one song by them. I might know 3 songs from this fucking band, but one of those songs I can't listen to in public. You know what I mean? Because it's like, and the band I'm talking about is fucking Sorority Noise. It's like some like punk. It's like a I don't know what it's like alternative like mellow music, but kind of with some punk aspects. They have a song called No Halo, and it's like, bro, you listen to the song, I want to cry. Fucking put on the music video, I am crying. It's like fucking insane. I'll send it to you guys, but yeah, it's like whether or not you grew up with it, like you just that's the beauty of it. That's why I love it so much. You know?
Oh yeah. The cool thing about it too, like, it's so unique that they that he collaborated with a Portuguese like artist, because you could, I don't know, something about Portuguese, it just sounds like such a romantic language for some reason.
Well,
Like,
it
it's
is
like,
a romantic language. It's just like French and Spanish, and
it sounds so like unique when you hear him, especially on a lot of the songs. Another song that I really liked, probably my top 3, Corcovado. That song's really good. I really that's where I like really started to appreciate the female vocalist.
Same.
Because she was like I heard her voice a lot more, I felt like, and like apparently she didn't really have like crazy like training or anything for,
Wow.
like, all of that, so
she just went on and did it. That's cool.
Quiet nights.
I like the album cover too. Like if you look into that,
I
that
do
was done,
want
it was done. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I want to draw that with the oil pastels, and
It was done by a Puerto Rican abstract expressionist
Really?
painter, and she did a lot of things for other albums too that came out in that era.
Really?
Whether it was bossa nova or jazz albums. Her name was Olga Albazu.
Damn.
it's kind of funny. I mean, it is abstract, but you look at it and it actually looks like 2 people that are dancing.
Right. It's very simple, but knowing that she did that for that whole genre, like,
Yeah.
and she was, able to do that and put
It's
her
a
mark
great
on
catch.
different
I did
albums.
not catch that.
Yeah.
It's
But-
such a fitting album art cover for this album.
Yeah.
Because it feels, the album kind of has a fancy feel to it, and when I look at
It
that
does.
album
It
cover,
does.
I'm like, if this was like a sculpture and it was all white in like a museum, this would be the music that would play
Yeah,
behind it.
it's
you know?
warm.
Yeah.
It's yellow. That's
That's
what
it.
this is. That's literally what this is. If or when I get married, this is playing at my wedding.
Oh yeah, you got to. It's great. I'm very glad you brought this up, and to speak on like the whole Portuguese thing. It's like I don't feel like Portugal was very represented in music at all at this time, and I still, there's not a lot of bands or musicians at all that come out of there, and especially back in the day, and to work with someone that was already, pretty decently popular and Stan Getz from America, and then to kind of combine that is just unreal.
Talk about collaborations, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
64.
That early, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like we talked about with Jazz Abroad. That was hella early, and that was a massive
Quincy
collaboration.
Rohan's,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
You see that a lot, especially in jazz, that they would do that. Like, they would collaborate with an artist, like a vocalist with a saxophone player or something like that.
yeah, it's
Herbie
very.
Hancock has collaborated with a lot of people too.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has.
I love Herbie Hancock. But do we want to dive into the top 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start
You
off.
guys top 3.
You know, everybody likes the girl. Where's the girl from? You know, we all know that song. We know that melody. I like the Desperado. I like the vibe of that song.
Yes.
And then Vivo Sojando. That's got the sax in it right there. You
That's
know,
the-
halfway through the song, you start hearing that sax, and I
Yeah.
like that part. you
Yeah.
know.
It's so loud though. It's just as loud as the vocalist, which is
Right.
fucking crazy.
Yeah, those are my top 3.
Yeah, I would say number 3. My top 3 basically match yours almost. Desafinado is number 3. The Girl from Impamina is number 2, and then Corvocado is number 1.
That was a good one too. I like that.
Yeah, I really, because as you said, that's really when you start to hear that female vocalist, and I really liked her too.
Oh,
I thought it was interesting that she was on a couple different tracks. As well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because she is like on like 3 other tracks.
But that one's like,
Yeah, you can hear her a lot more clearly, and
Right.
And she's like I think in some like she's like speaking English, like you could hear some of it. But
And
she'll
it's
switch it up.
Joao's wife too.
Yeah.
no shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Same last name.
That's pretty cool, man.
It's pretty fucking cool, man.
It's a carrot. Wow.
Oh yeah.
And what are your top 3?
If I had a top 3, I'd
Shout out to
definitely
me.
go that song.
Yeah.
The Corcovado. Honorable mention for sure. Desafinado. Love that song. Really good song. I really like Sudanzo Samba.
Yes.
Super good song, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
that was
God.
my honorable mention.
I love that song, dude. So yeah, that song Corcovado, and then the girl from Impanida.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
yeah. What about you, pal?
Dude, it's so hard for me to like. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to
Yeah.
this if I pick a 3. But I have to pick the girl from Ipanema.
Yep.
Tall and tan. Like damn, dude. That song in itself is a movie.
Yeah.
That one. And Para Mostrar Mi Corazón.
Yeah.
And O Grande Amor.
That was a
really-
good. I really liked that one too.
It's really hard to pick.
Yeah,
Like, I
it
really
was.
like all of these songs so much. Yeah, I think just being a kid and listening to this,
Oh, I bet, dude.
I feel like it's
would
just
have had a massive impact.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Especially
why I love jazz.
Yeah. Jazz is it's
Shout out
so
to my
I don't know. It's so like heartwarming, and it's like it just hits you a little bit more. Like
I think
it
it affects everybody
it
differently
cuddles
too.
you, yeah,
for sure.
I think it's the fact of just like live instrumentation that's different.
Yeah.
Because I mean, jazz really what it is it's lyrics with
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah. It's like an instrument takes the place of a vocalist, and a lot of times,
Yes.
and
It's a lot of improv too.
Exactly.
Just kind of doing what they want, and it just
Like you said, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like jazz albums are so interesting that they manage to, especially an album like this, and we talked about Jazz Abroad earlier in the cast, is to capture the true essence of that kind of style of music because, at the time people were going to jazz clubs. Like it was live music, the like recording shit was just it was not incredibly massive, or whatever, and it's like
I also just want to mention too, it's like because of the time and like the instruments that were available, it didn't matter if you were in America or Cuba or Mexico, you're all using live instrumentation.
yeah.
You could hear this like everywhere, like
Yeah.
in its own form, like something.
Yeah. Using a toilet plunger cap as a
Yeah.
as a fucking
Pretty much, yeah.
mute for a trumpet.
You could hear it even on
You do, and it's just
Something Miles Davis did with he had like a mute on his trumpet sometimes to do a quieter tone.
Yeah, and even in band, you go to any fucking band classroom today, and they're still using fucking toilet plunger caps for mutes. On God,
I'm sure.
because it's a different kind. Yeah, and so it's just how innovative they are with what was at their disposal, and some of that stuff still carries into modern times. But
I love that you brought this album up, George.
Same, dude.
It's for a jazz because I want to bring up jazz too eventually, and this is one of those iconic albums.
Exactly,
especially with such for us talk about instruments and for a sax player Stan Getz. Oh my god!
I honestly didn't even know this album was like that.
Yeah, dude, it was got huge. A lot of
was
huge.
I didn't know at all. Damn.
Yeah. But that was Getz / Gilberto by Stan Getz and Joao Gilberto. George's pick for this week. We'll be right back to dive into the next one.
Well, back to camera mode real quick. Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed that awesome remix, remash, whatever, revisit episode, true revisit, time capsule ep of Whatchu Spinnin. We'll see you in a little bit to bring you episode 71. I'm Dorian, that's Matt, and that's Jake, and we will catch y'all later. Listen to new music, tell your friends about this show, and tell your friends about music, and you know what? Don't leave your refrigerator running. Peace out.